All right, we ready? Good morning and happy Friday. Oh, good, you can hear me. Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome to the ICAT Playdate. My name is Phyllis Newbill. I am the Associate Director of Educational Networks in one of our two centers, or several centers at ICAT, the Center for Educational Networks and Impact. I'm so glad to have this great turnout this morning. I know that we are anxious to move into the activities of next week. But today we are here. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping things. First, we are filming this morning in 360. So this little circle here, sphere, is filming. This is being broadcast online at this moment and will exist online afterwards. And it's showing the whole room, so behave accordingly. I'm going to send a sign-in sheet around. I'll start it over here. Please do put your name and department and email on here. I'll start with you. That is one, because we want to know who's here, and two, because that's how we justify paying for coffee and donuts, and we need donuts. Very important. And coffee. Sorry, Tom. If you have questions today, wait till I get to you with the mic so that the folks online will be able to hear you. And if you're online, welcome, and I hope that you'll put questions into the question link there, and we'll get to them as quick as we can. If you are here for Professional Development Network or PDN credit, make sure, or if you're online for that, make sure that you check in with me so that I can give you your 100% A+ for your attendance today. It is that time of the semester when we don't have that many announcements, so thanks to all who made the Science Festival possible and made it happen this past weekend. That was great fun. And beyond that, it is just hang in there, y'all. The end of the semester is coming. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to today's group. So Joe Culligan and the Imagine Lab, and I'm going to hand it off to you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. And I'm actually going to pass it off to my research partner, Trish Winter at Caregivers Clinic, and she's going to get us started.
Good morning. We're going to make some music. I promise it will be relatively painless, potentially. And we'll first start out with call and response. So I'll call, and the group responds. Easy peasy, yeah? As soon as my collaborator over here stops signing in.
I'll hold that, and how about I'll circulate that in the other area for a little bit. Thank you. I'll take it for a minute.
All right, here we go. Awesome. You guys are really good. So we're going to do a little dyad playing with the musicians here in the circle We're going to pair you up and you'll play together. Not call and response, just play together. Free improvisation. Sounds like fun, right? And then when we are done with the dyad playing, we'll get into a full group improvisation where we all play together. So you're right now seeing Axe's brain waves because Axe generously donated her brain to science this morning. So you can see what's going on while we make some music. Here. What two brave souls would like to play the drum together? Oh, thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas says, who would like to join? An axe. All right, so you get to start and stop whenever the spirit moves you. Great, okay. Stopping at the same time, that was cool. Yeah. How about two more brave souls? We got Chelsea.
Sure.
All right, and, remind me your name again?
Philip.
Philip, I'm sorry. Chelsea and Philip. You can clap if you want. That was great. Very nice. Thank you. Ben, it's just you and me. Woohoo! Nice job, Ben. All right, all right. Little weak applause there, but we'll take it. All right, so we're going to do some group drumming, or shaking, or scraping, or whatever it is that you have, or clapping, or stomping, or dancing, or singing, or vocalizing. Make music in whatever way. If you've got a computer and you want to put a beat behind it, make that happen. That's cool. Get out the GarageBand. Yeah, we'll just start, and then we'll just go. And when we're done, we'll end. It's great stuff. I know there's a timekeeper and I don't know. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so let's try something a little bit the same, but with a little bit more direction, right? So this first go through, not a lot of direction, right? People love that when I do that. Not a lot of guidance, not a lot of direction, just figure it out. People hate that when I do that. So this time, let's do the same thing. I wonder if you could do it a little bit louder because I listen to my music too loud and my hearing is probably not as good as it could be. And so people in the back row, it's really hard to get you up here, or you're welcome to come a little closer. Come a little closer, okay, all right. Try to hear someone else playing. Try to find someone else and join them. And then find someone else and join them. And maybe you're gonna echo what they played, or maybe you're gonna give a little extra fill in with the beat or something like that. But try to find some other people in the room to join, all right? And we'll do that with our ears. We don't have to do that with our eyes necessarily. Let's try it again. Would somebody like to start this one? Oh, that feels like a start to me. All right, I love it. Very, very lovely. That was pretty evocative, very sensitive. I think we're good. We're gonna actually tell you what it is that we're doing here, besides just playing in this big space. So those of you who are kind of sitting here, if you want to move a little bit so you're not like sitting in front of us when we talk. Thanks for everyone who joined in playing. It came to my attention that maybe this is stressful for people to like get an instrument and then just play it in a group of strangers. So it's good for me to be reminded that that might make people nervous.
No, you're fine. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for getting us started off. Excellent improvisation. Thank you. So we are the Imagine Lab. One of our research assistants is coming around right now picking up instruments. So if you could please kindly return those to her, that would be great. And we are investigating the impact of music therapy on persons with dementia. So that is what we are striving to find out, because we think that there's something that happens on a neurological level, is basically, which is also why you were seeing the lovely neural activity happening during the same time from our brave volunteers. So there's very little research that's being done on persons with dementia. A lot of people think you can't really do research on persons with dementia. It's very challenging to invite them to be able to engage in the research process. So we carefully designed a study to help people be able to participate in a safe way while collecting data from people while engaging in 12 weeks of music therapy sessions with our lovely Trish. So over spring 2022, we were awarded the ICAT Major Seed Grant, which was lovely and helped give us the funding to propel us forward to be able to hire EEG technicians. So we spent that spring semester doing a whole lot of practice. You can see members of our team here figuring out the kinks and working on ways that we could really kind of meet people where they were. But one of the main things that really helped us the most was our research assistants. So our undergraduate research team was really phenomenal. And I'm going to let Trish talk a little bit about the data collection process.
Sure. So for 12 weeks, we met in the Cube, which is a very interesting space. If you've been there, you know it's big and it's dark. And we invited people from the community, a person with dementia and a person without, and their caregiver without dementia, to join us for music therapy informed experiences. And they were about 30 minutes in length. And what we did here is part of what we did there with the individuals. We also did some singing and some song-based music making at the beginning and at the end. And the songs came from the participants themselves, who made very challenging requests to this guitar player to learn a bunch of songs, and it was very exciting. So they would come in and they would get capped, and then we would do music. And while that was happening, our research assistants who had just capped our participants with dementia and their caregivers, and they did so with great sensitivity, they would stand in the wings of the cube and they would observe any kind of movement that seemed important or noteworthy, or any kind of connection between a caregiver and a participant or another participant. And they would mark that in the EEG data so that we could go back and look at the video. We had this wonderful 3D camera, looks like a little robot, taking all of the video data. We had audio data, and we have the EEG data. And then the observers were saying, something important is happening here. We need to go back and figure out what that is so that we can line that up to the EEG data and see what was happening in the music and the participants at that time. It was a really fascinating experience. We had persons with dementia who were at various stages in their disease process. And so it was really interesting to watch them learn the environment and to understand what they were coming to the cube for, and to show visible relaxation a couple weeks in. And also, one of our most profoundly impacted participants would walk in whistling, or would start singing along, or add vocal sound effects as the weeks went by. So we really saw what was a notable change in how they engaged in the environment. So we know that something's happening, and we want to see what that looks like at a neurological level, because our anecdotal stories are only going to get us so far.
Thank you. Yeah, so like Trish said, the anecdotes really only go so far. And that's what we have a lot of music therapy is we have anecdotes. We see change, we experience change, we feel change during the sessions, but we need to quantify that in a way that we're able to communicate it more effectively to the scientific community. So that's what we're working on right now. Currently, our research assistants have been trained in movement coding and movement analysis, inspired by Laban movement analysis, if you're familiar with that. And they're currently reviewing all of the video data. And they're seeing, oh, that person gazed at their caregiver then. That's important. We put so much pressure on language, and language starts to become a challenge for someone experiencing a cognitive change. So if we can access more communication through music, even if it's nonverbal, like there's value there. So let's put some numbers behind it. Let's demonstrate that something's actually happening so that we can start to continue to support music therapy and support music interventions for people. So currently our data is in pre-processing with faculty from the School of Neuroscience, which we're very fortunate that they are supporting us in this. And we're also working on the video coding. So once we get all that done, we're gonna align it all, and then we're gonna see what's happening. So a lot to come. Another exciting facet of this process is that we've been talking a little bit about how we interpret data and how we look at data, because we look at data. So we were talking also about another way that we can interpret data through listening, and I'm gonna pass it off to Brandon to talk a little bit about a data sonification process, and then we have an example to play for you.
Yeah, so I'm Brandon Hale. I worked on this project with them, and I work at ICAT here. So as you saw up here, you saw many waveforms, right? There's different ways to interpret that, right? But one great thing about sonification is that you no longer have to be inundated in lots of visual stimuli. You can turn it into sound, and we can interpret things a lot easier. And because of that, I mean, music theory has tons of elements in it, right? There's constant data in music that we just kind of sometimes inherently get. So this sonification example that we're going to play for you, I took the data from each one of those waveforms that you saw, and I did some simple statistics on it, and I put it into a program that I made in Common Lisp, and I fed them each one of these waveforms into an oscillator. And it's a very rudimentary sonification, but I'm hoping it's effective and you can kind of hear different correlations and patterns in the data. So let's go ahead and play it. So you can hear some of the waveforms here. So as you heard, there's a lot of things happening, right? So each one of those sounds that you heard literally represents one of the waveforms. So like I said, very rudimentary, but hopefully you can hear correlation between the different waveforms, and you can hear different patterns within it.
Thank you, Brandon. So there's a lot of different things going on with this project, and we recognize that. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. There's so many things to do. But that's a little bit of what we're working on, trying to figure out what's actually happening on a neurologic level, how can we observe this, and then how can we relay this to people so that way they have an opportunity to be able to engage in a conversation about it. And so at this point in time, we'd like to invite questions from you. We might not be able to answer all of them, but we'll do our best. And thank you for being here and for making music, because like Trish said, that's a heavy lift for some folks. So we appreciate you going in on it with us. So, thank you.
Thank you all so much for bringing your research and your skills. All of this is, anyway, I'm blown away. My own mom had a moment with music where she hadn't spoken for about 5 days, and all of a sudden she was coming out with whole sentences in the songs.
Yeah,
She knew the lyrics.
absolutely. And
yeah.
so what's happening?
Yeah, what's happening in her brain?
What's happening there?
We
We want to find out.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that we're doing this. What questions do we have in the room or online? If you're online, type those in quick. It's so quiet. Sean? Okay.
Okay. Just sort of like my limited understanding about some musical therapy is that there's this theory that the memories are encoded in a different part of the brain than maybe the more day-to-day language skills. And I'm wondering if y'all are seeing that in the data yet. Is anything to indicate, to sort of back up these ideas?
So we won't actually see, I'm probably going to get myself down a really deep rabbit hole, because we're not doing MRI, right? So we're not going to see like the pictures of the brain, but we will be able to do neural mapping with the EEG data. So hopefully that'll help us at least understand where things are going on from an electrical current standpoint, right? Yeah, and the thinking is that music processing happens across the brain. It's a whole brain experience. And so the music is bypassing the areas of the brain that are certainly deteriorating or being impacted by the disease process, right? And so that's why the music stays intact in their brain and they're able to produce it. Also, they're producing these long-term old memories, these songs from childhood. I was being asked to play songs from the 60s and 70s, which was really exciting because I used to play songs from the 1800s when I started in my career. I'm not that old, but that was sort of, the music has changed, right? And the requests are changed. But I was being asked to play songs from their 20s and 30s, which has been a long-standing understanding of music therapy. But Jo is taking a neurology class and she might have more info.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the way that music is kind of stored and processed in the brain, that's stuff that's still being unlocked every day. Every day we're still learning more and more. But we do know that the way that dementia impacts the brain from a physical standpoint, that the place where musical processing is stored remains intact. So, and what we're hoping is, unless somebody has experienced some kind of hearing trauma or damage, people can still receive music. Unless you close your ears, we can still receive it. And even for people who we work with who have hearing impairments, they can receive it through vibrations, right? So there's still different ways that we can still access music even if someone has experienced this kind of trauma. So the short answer is we're working on it. But the longer answer is that we still have tons of anecdotes, again, to back us up on, and to kind of like help inform how we're going to continue to move forward and trying to help music access people's health when dementia is trying to rob them of that.
Okay, we have one coming in online, and I'll see if I can get the inflections right. So the question is about the beneficial effect of playing music versus hearing music. Do you know? Tell me what you know about that, the comparison between the two.
Again, I think that's a question that we're trying to answer. So when we're digging into the neurological research on music processing, which is not as extant as you might think, it's a limited data source. Some of the some of the research has been about people listening or thinking about music in an MRI. You think about a song or you think about a piece of music, or Oliver Sacks thought about a score. And then they tried to understand what was going on in his brain. And so they've taken some musicians who've played together, like a guitar ensemble playing a piece together to see how their brains worked, right? So there's a little bit of information from musicians, but it is so spotty that I don't know if we even know the difference between making music versus hearing music versus thinking music. And they're all part of this big picture that we don't have much filled in.
There are some, excuse me, thank you. There are, however, so for somebody who in a music therapy group will participate in drum play, for instance, if someone is experiencing arthritis and they might think, I shouldn't play the drums, my hands hurt. That's actually counterintuitive. When you play the drums, it can increase blood flow to your fingers. It can help your fingers feel better. So there's lots of physical things that happen that aren't related just to communication disorders that music impacts when you participate in it. There are studies out there that show that if you participate in a choir, participating in a choir improves your mood, because when we sing, it releases oxytocin and the feel-good hormones. So you feel good, okay? So this is some measurable stuff that's happened. So there are things that are happening across wide populations when they participate in music making that in active music making are powerful and are making a difference for them. And then, but again, the real gap here that we have is people with dementia and being able to access them and invite them to participate in research in a way that helps them feel connected and invites them to continue to come back so that we can learn more about that.
And one of the things that music therapists do is make live music, right? So we try, at least some of us try, to avoid recorded music, because what's the point of like $1 million music degree if you're just going to push play, right? So we're all trained to play multiple instruments and multiple genres and to be with our clients in the music, in the moment, to modulate what we do, to change the tempo, to change the, sometimes the meter, to change the volume, to change the song, right? Because memories are stored in people and long-term memories are stored, music can also evoke strong, not positive memories. It's not always evoking strong, positive memories. There are also deep emotional connections to music. And so we're trained to do that. And I think that's part of Joe's and my passion in looking at the live music component, because we feel very compelled to understand why live music is the thing to do for as long as possible, because it's sort of like the history of humanity, right? We've been making music together for as long as there's been music, long before recordings existed.
We are at time, so we have to stop. I know that this is great. I love the questions, and the connections are so strong. I want to thank you all for being here this morning. There's a couple more donuts. You might have to like mad dash over there for those, but there's a couple more. I want to thank you all for being here and sharing your research with us. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving break. Celebrate, enjoy your people, and enjoy some music. All right, we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much.